Ooh, baby. Tyson, the Eagles looking great. Welcome to Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. I'm Brad McKay. That's my co-host, Tyson Gentry. You know what? We came on here last week, and it was our first show, and we're like, we're not going to get many episodes where we're going to come on here, and it's a no sweater. Wow. Another 2 weeks in a row, Tyson. We got a lot to break down. How you feeling, baby?
Well, in true Eagles fashion, true Philadelphia sports fashion, they left us hanging for a quarter. Joe Burrow comes down, and we'll talk about it. He looks like a maestro. They convert like 6 third downs on that first drive. They had the ball for 10 minutes in the first quarter. Eagles still can't score in the first quarter, but God damn it, Brad, they scored on the first drive. That's got to count for something. It was absolutely massive this week, and then it just became, feet up territory, which was not something either one of us expected as we kind of previewed this one barely last week. Just kind of got our feet wet with it a little bit, but this was not feeling like it was going to be a picnic or anything like that. I mean, the Bengals are it's hard because it's week 7, but essentially in a must-win spot at home, and you go into their place and just dominate. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and we were texting during the game, and we were throwing out the words that nobody likes to hear. Is this 2022? It feels like 2022. Now everybody wants to know if the Philadelphia Eagles are back, and so we'll get into that. First, we're going to break down what we saw in this game. And Tyson, and the Eagles fans out there, if you definitely were watching, or else you wouldn't be watching this podcast. But 37 to 17, Eagles scored 27 points in the second half. They hold the Bengals to just 7 points in the second half as well. A complete beatdown. Joe Burrow gets intercepted. Jalen Hurts doesn't have a turnover again. Super efficient, 16 of 20, 236 for 11.8 yards per completion. His passer rating 132.5, QBR 95.6, outplayed Joe Burrow in both of those statistical categories. Another 100-yard game for Saquon Barkley. He didn't get in the end zone, but that's because Hurts ran 3 in. You said it. Dominating game, Tyson. I got to admit, I was nervous in the defense the first drive. I was texting my brother, who's also an Eagles fan. I'm like, Vic Fangio's just getting shredded. And
you were mad. Oh, you texted me too.
I was mad because it was the third downs. And so I will get your thoughts on that. But I think overall, before we start dissecting this thing, you can't come out of this feeling anything but happiness and like, whoa, the Eagles are actually a good football team.
Yeah, and Jalen was throwing the football over the middle of the field, and that's something to keep in mind when we talk about those stats, the 4 incompletions. I mean, the bomb to Devontae Smith, I'm sure everybody, if you're listening to this, you're probably a bit of a sicko, and you've seen the tweet that it was the longest throw in the air of his career to this point as far as the completion. I think it was like 59.3 or something like that. So that feels good for us Eagles fans that have been battling everybody, saying, no, the deep ball is the best thing he does. And so to put it on the money to Smitty, and we thought maybe it was going to be a Smitty game, but this was just good vibes all around. Brad, before we get too deep into this, can you give me one play that sticks in your mind as what this game was for you?
The third down after the holding penalty, and Jalen stands in the pocket, delivers a strike to A.J. Brown, first down on the 3rd and 16.
It was beautiful. That was awesome. The one I have in my head is another third down, but it's Zach Taylor being cute because not everybody can run the tush push, people. We know that now, but he motions Jamar Chase, get the ball to your best player in space. It's 4th and 1. You have to have it. And Cooper DeJean walks him down, makes the tackle, and walks away. That was like, oh, this defense they're maybe better than we were giving them credit for after stomping the Giants.
And Cooper DeJean dropped the interception early, and I was texting Tyson, I'm like, oh, dude, like you got to make those plays. It came back to bite him. The Bengals scored, and we've seen in the past, and you were scarred by the Super Bowl. The Eagles, we think, should have won against the Chiefs. Didn't do anything the second half. No playmaking at all on the defensive side. And that's going to stick in your mind if you're an Eagles fan for a long time. We've talked about it ad nauseum for 2 years. Where are the turnovers? Where is getting people in a position where you can take advantage of that? And the Eagles did that this time. And Tyson, the tackling for the first time at field, and honestly, even beyond 2022, was some of the best I've seen. Like, these guys are hitting and wrapping up and making the one-on-one play. That we haven't said that even when they went to the Super Bowl. That was not the case.
No, and I heard on another podcast today that by the metrics or whatever, this is the best game they've played actually since 2021 as a unit. So even kind of going back beyond that Super Bowl season. But it's hard too because like you and I, as we talk about, the entire NFL, other places, but this is an abysmal running football team. And so that it's hard really to say, well, Zach Moss didn't break any tackles. Well, no shit. Sorry for cursing. Zach Moss doesn't break any tackles anywhere else either. So I felt like the defense played really well and all that stuff. But just having to keep in mind that this was not a very good defense that they're playing against. It's a head coach and Zach Taylor that you and I aren't very high on, and I think the sentiment is swinging that way rapidly in Cincinnati. But a win is a win. A win on the road against a team that had to have it is really, really important. And to be honest with you, Joe Burrow wasn't the reason the Bengals, like, he played well. And so when you can beat a team when their quarterback plays well, that's fantastic, because it's a little different than Derek Carr and Daniel Jones and, the other quarterbacks the Eagles have beat so far this season. This was the first time where it was like bona fide top 5 guy. Let's see what this defense can do. I'm still riding high. I can't consume enough Eagles stuff today, which is not the way we normally operate. Normally it's like, shut us out.
Well, how about this? Jamar Chase catches 9 balls for only 54 yards. And who would have thought, if you said Jamar Chase catching 9 balls, you would have said he's having like 150 yards. So that's the thought process, right? Like, the secondary is toast. They're trash. Darius Slay leaves the ball game with a groin injury or whatever, and Isaiah Rodgers comes in. He makes a play and tips it to CJ. I mean, all of a sudden, the secondary is a strength. You got DeJean making tackles. Quinion Mitchell is putting the clamps on every wide receiver one in the league. Then Isaiah Rodgers just comes off the bench and he's the closer. He tips it to the safety. Like, what is happening here?
Well, let's stick on the defensive side of the football for a little while and just kind of, we'll structure this a little bit for people that have to sit through it. But I think, to me, so they go through the entire first drive. The Bengals are dominating. The second drive starts. It kind of feels like maybe Cincinnati's just going to do this all day and there's not going to be anything you can do. Jalen Carter, immediate disruption play, flatbacks, the center of the guard, I can't quite remember, gets in Joe Burrow's face. And then it was like, oh, maybe we're going to have a bit of a party today. Josh Sweat is making things happen. Nolan Smith, 3 straight games with a sack now. When he got his first one, everybody was freaking out. When he got his second one, it was like, holy smokes, maybe you don't bury a project who was picked at 30th overall because he didn't look good his rookie season. And now it looks like we got a guy. Brandon Graham looks awesome. But the one, if there's something that's going to stick in my craw, and I know it got you because I got the text messages, you were a little fired up. The touchdown to Jamar Chase. Zach Taylor, great play design, brings him across the formation, isolates him essentially with whoever that's going to be on that side. That play, it happened to be Nolan Smith. And yes, Jamar Chase scored a touchdown. He had to guard, or Nolan Smith had to guard Jamar Chase for 6 seconds, essentially. If Bryce Huff holds the edge on a play like that, or, whoever it was, if Nakobe Dean comes down and gets a little bit more pressure on Joe Burrow, those things don't happen. And I think those are learning pains and growing pains, and that's the Fangio defense. You're going to get matchups like that, and sometimes you just lose to the best receiver in the NFL. But the way they were able to figure that out as Cincinnati continued with that motion throughout the game, and that look was never available again, is something that I think Eagles fans can kind of hang their hats on, because there was a little, I don't know about this Vic Fangio guy early in the season, and it's like, well, it's year 1 Vic Fangio, and you haven't even given him 5 weeks yet. Like, well, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, and like you alluded to, we talk about the NFL as a whole. And so when he was in Miami last year, we were like, this defense isn't going to be magically turned around in 1 year. It takes a while for people to understand. It's a complex defense. The Eagles have an advantage because he last year, or 2 years ago, was a consultant, or at least was in the building. And then last year they're running a similar system from Sean Desai. So now you have the headmaster, for lack of a better term. You don't have the pupil coming in the OG, right? Like, he's running the show. So I think it's helping this defense a little bit. Like, they're like, okay, we're familiar with this. It's like they had a learning curve, like a year in advance learning curve. Real guy comes in, Fangio. All of a sudden, you're kind of seeing it pick up. So, I'm at the point, Tyson, where I got to say, I am believing in this defense. I'm no longer going to be calling out Fangio on like one drive. It's like, oh, what the hell? Because that's what I was doing. I'm like, come on, we play a real quarterback. This team plays a real quarterback, and they get shredded up. The third downs, they have to improve. Now, in the second half, way, way better. I don't know what the adjustments were. I don't know if it was just different things that Burrow wasn't seeing, if the offensive line was collapsing. But that was very eye-opening to me. So I'm a believer in this defense now. I can't believe I'm saying that. But Nolan Smith, Tyson, I will firmly admit I was one of the ones, like, I think after this year we can say he's a bust. And all of a sudden I'm like, dude, this guy to me is a cornerstone edge rusher on the other side of Josh Sweat. And we talked about it last week. He has a high motor. You can't teach that. And so he's getting after the passer. He's holding the edge. He's running down Burrow. Like when Burrow went to the sideline, tried to extend the play, Nolan Smith like showed off that 4.4 speed, and all of a sudden Burrow's like, whoa, this guy's on me, and had to dump it. They get up, the Eagles defense gets off the field on third down, get the ball in their offense. And I was like, those are the little plays that don't show up that are huge for these defenses, like on the course of a game.
Yeah, it's always hard with everybody's just so obsessed with stats, and sometimes things aren't going to be in the stat book. That might not even have gone down as a pressure. I haven't gone back through and looked, but he was awesome.
Yeah,
Thomas Booker was awesome. It was just it's an all around unit where we were kind of looking before the season. It was like you paid Bryce Huff a bunch of money. He's obviously got to be the guy, and other guys have stepped up there. But Brad, they're able to step up because Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond are the best linebacker duo this Eagles team has had in a long time. And that is not Zach Bond is a career special teamer in New Orleans, and there's kind of some smoke during the offseason where like Fangio's playing him a bunch, but that's got to mean Devin White's just injured, and they'll get him in there. He's got the green dot over Nakobe Dean. That's weird, but it'll all get figured out, and then eventually we're going to have Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and Devin White running the linebacker spots. Zach Bond has been a godsend for this football team, and it allows Nakobe Dean to do the things he's good at, the things he was good at Georgia, which is play instinctually, play fast, go downhill, see ball, hit ball, right? And so that is something the Eagles have struggled with, and fans know how he doesn't want to pay a linebacker, and that's fine. But we've seen now, I can't put this team in the same category as some of the past Eagles teams that have done really well, but 2017, 2018, you had Nigel Bradham, you had Jordan Hicks, you had good linebackers, right? You had Camu Grugier-Hill. And then in 2022, you get a year of Kaiser White, you get TJ Edwards, you get some of these guys that help kind of just elevate the rest of the group. And that feels like what this linebacker core is doing. And they're the ones forcing turnovers, right? Zach Bond comes in and punches the ball out. That's huge because this is a team that kind of much maligned in the media for not, turning the ball over. And us as fans know it's really hard to win games when Jalen has 2 fumbles and the defense doesn't get it back for you. So these last 3 weeks have been like, your head's almost spinning because this is not the Philadelphia Eagles I thought we were getting in week 4.
Yeah, well, and I was going to bring up the linebackers too before you did. How about this? They combined for 21 total tackles, Bond and Dean. 8 solos from Bond, 7 from Dean. 1 tackle for loss for Nakobe Dean, 1 quarterback hit. Like you said, he's playing downhill. And I'll put this out here. So Sean Syed, who's a film guru, wrote the book of Fangio, and he says that he thinks there's actually a higher ceiling for Bond in this defense. And so Fangio saw him. He's like, no, I want this guy to be this running this role or whatever he has. So we haven't even scratched the surface what that's possible for him to do. Tyson, combine that with the fact that all of a sudden we kind of know what Nakobe Dean can do in this Fangio defense. This is the best he's ever played. All of a sudden, this linebacking core, holy smokes, they're going sideline to sideline. They're not getting cooked. They're stopping the run. I think that can solve the run game issues that we've had earlier. Because Tyson, last 3 weeks, I know it hasn't been great, but you hold Chase Brown and Zach Moss. I know we kind of like, they don't really run the football that well, but they've been explosive when they've been given the opportunity. And this Eagles defense has given up chunk plays, and for them to shut that down, that you gotta be happy about that.
Shut it down in a hurry. And then last thing for me on the defense, man, is if Quinyon Mitchell had interceptions right now, I mean, this guy's walking away with Defensive Rookie of the Year. My bold prediction last week, who's going to get one, he just keeps the degree of difficulty up and up and up. His first one's going to be a backflip one-hander, 360 gain or something crazy. But I don't know if the PFF stat is accurate that he allowed 2 catches for like 19 yards when matched up with Jamar Chase this entire game, which is fantastic, obviously. And we know Mike Evans absolutely went off against the Philadelphia Eagles. That was almost all on Darius Slay. This is a guy who's getting some big-time matchups and answering the bell. And then on the flip side, you said, well, I don't know what changed after that first drive. Avonte Maddox got off the field. And Mike Gesicki wasn't open anymore because Cooper DeJean is at least in an area to make a play. Reed Blankenship is coming downhill. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is playing better. It just – when they're fast, they're dangerous. And this is something that hasn't really, been the case for an Eagles defense that, we're pounding the table even after the Packers game week 1, they win. And it's like, well, this defense is still slow. And these rooks are just giving you juice, man.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Let's switch over to the offensive side of the ball. There's really not that much that I think we need to talk about, Tyson. I mean, On a grand scheme of things, I think we can. But let's discuss this game and then kind of move into the future direction. Once again, I thought Jalen Hurts was very good. And this is a guy who's been ripped by the Philly media. This is a guy who's been ripped by the national media in the recent couple of years. That's like, it's been taken a step back. He's only good with Shane Steichen. Well, I thought last year, we talked about it. I wish we had this podcast last year. The Brian Johnson's just not an NFL coordinator.
What?
That just happens, right? Like, he's an internal guy. He has a really good relationship with the quarterback. Let's promote him. Didn't work. Okay. Let's move on. Like we don't have to do anything crazy here. But everything in Philadelphia media is the sky's falling, right? So, oh my God, the coordinator, Nick had to move on from the coordinator. Bring in a guy who's been very good through his career in Kellen Moore. All of a sudden, Tyson, this thing is operating. What did I say last week? Underneath, and when they're under center, that opens up everything this passing game. You see who just came out and said, wow, this new under center thing's working? Dan Orlovsky of ESPN. I mean, so what do you know? I think it's starting to really go through the national side of things that Jalen Hurts is in complete control of this offense. The middle of the field, I think, is going to be opened more now that he's trusting these play calls, Tyson. And we just saw the vertical routes down the outside. This, to me, this offense ceiling is starting to, we're going to see it. 37 points against the Bengals defense, Lou Anarumo. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was 37, and it, probably should have been 40 or 41. Shout out to the ref calling holding on the absolutely insane Will Shipley touchdown run. Let the rookie, let him have his moment. Come on. No, but this offense, this is, to me, Jalen Hurts at his best is when he just looks completely unbothered, and not in the way where I'm trying to appear unbothered for the camera, but in just you can't do anything to me today. And that's how it felt like from the jump for him. Obviously, we know that if you start the game and you find A.J. Brown, it just helps him get into a groove. But Brad, down the middle throws were awesome. The throws to the sidelines were awesome. The most encouraging thing for me, Grant Calcaterra got targets. Jalen's throwing to somebody else. It's not and Calcaterra played well. I'm not going to waste a ton of time here today talking about him filling in for Goddard. I thought he was awesome. But the fact that Jalen Hurts is trusting him in those moments is huge, because even in his almost MVP season in 2022, or when he was I think he was the MVP favorite up until after the Bills
got
game
hurt
a year ago, when he was just putting up crazy numbers. But it was Smitty, it was AJ, and it was Dallas. And so to see other guys kind of factor into this is fantastic. And it wasn't like a typical Jalen Hurts game in the way that he avoids a sack and then I'm going to sit here and pat the ball for 3-4 pats and fumble. He was out of there, and he was quick, and he was decisive. When he plays like that, he's just hard to beat. And that's kind of the overarching theme here for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Is I was thinking about this today when we're sitting there watching the Cincinnati Bengals go 10 minutes, and convert every third down. What do you think it feels like to watch a team line up on their own 38-yard line for a quarterback sneak, and that the drive is going to continue? The Eagles do that on their second drive. This is the Jalen Hurts that, commanded that contract. I don't care. The one rushing touchdown was absolutely all Jalen. The other two are the brotherly shove, the tush push. I'm getting a little sick of this doesn't really count, the way that it's portrayed in the media. Nobody else can do it. The Bears handed the football to a guard. Other teams can't do this. When Jalen Hurts is confident and rolling, I mean, this is what we see. We see A.J. Brown with 85 yards. You see Devontae Smith with 85 yards, and it makes it really hard to stop, especially when you can turn around and hand the ball to 26 from under center 21 times in this game. 21 times they ran the ball or from under center.
Well, it's the whole thing's impressive. I mean, I want to talk about the closing aspect too of Saquon Barkley, and we'll kind of get into the Eagles back conversation, because like I said, there's not too much we can talk about this offense. This is the closer they've been looking for, Tyson. Like in 2022, it was Miles Sanders, and Penn State guy, and so is Saquon Barkley. So I have a little soft spot for him. But what Saquon Barkley can do in terms of his just overall ability to dominate and pick up, when it's supposed to be 3 yards, all of a sudden it's 6. And now it's 2nd and 4, and you're like, oh my God, we have the world's our oyster for what we can call here. We can call another run, get another first down, clock keeps going, or we can even take a shot because we know we can convert a 3rd and 4. Because we get 3 yards, we're doing tush push, like you said. So this guy, he opens up a whole new world of possibilities for what the Eagles can do offensively. And Tyson, it was a slow start. All of a sudden, it was like, we got the lead. Let's go, Saquon. You ready to go? Boom, boom, boom. Shut the book. Get down. Jalen Hurts scores the tush push, and that's that. I mean, this is incredible. Do you think the Eagles are back, though? Let's get into there before we look ahead.
This was the first game that I've seen since – oh, man. Let's see. Last year was hard because we were all sitting here going, I don't believe this 10-1 start, whatever it ended up being. So I don't know about which game I got broken within that kind of run of slop. But this was the first one where it was this season for sure, where it was like, oh, this team has a ceiling of winning a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, oh, this is the Super Bowl favorite even in the NFC. I think that's a little disrespectful to the Detroit Lions right now. I mean, when you score 60 and you only throw the ball for 80 yards, that's a special thing. But no, this was the first time where I was like, the Eagles have a shot this year to do what we kind of all hoped when you have this collection of talent. And part of that, Brad, is the bald guy on the thumbnail here. And I'm talking about Nick Sirianni. He's 39-19, brother. He's 39-19. He wins 68% of the games that are played, and he's poor at speaking to the media. And he says dumb stuff to the fans that you and I are going to get on him about, I'm sure, over the course of this season. But at the end of the day, that dude got a swag back. It sure looks like that he figured it out. Situational football, he's been really good for 3 weeks, and now he's got to be really good for the next 13 or whatever it is, hopefully until the Super Bowl for this team. But this is kind of his calling card. Well, what does he really do? He doesn't call the plays. He doesn't call the defense. But when Dan Campbell is perfect at situational football, everyone understands that this is the CEO type that Philadelphia is looking for. And he's been awesome. And it's been real quiet in the Fire Sirianni streets over the last couple of weeks. And if you're watching the post-game interviews and the guys in the locker room and stuff, they never stopped believing in him. From like the outside looking in. And there was a ton of external pressure a year ago, and they broke within that locker room somewhere. But they brought back essentially the same core. And you can't just sit here and say, well, they brought in new coordinators, and that's how this whole thing works. No, he's got the guys believing. And that's a special thing for a head coach to do, because the team that the Eagles play next week doesn't believe in their head coach at all. Right? And so that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Sirianni. One, bald power. He's buzz cut, though. He's not bald, so it sucks.
Is that like appropriating culture?
I got the full thing. What's that?
Is that like appropriating culture?
I'm not sure, but I love it because, he looks good, right? The bald head, Sirianni. People are making fun of him. Oh, something wrong. And this is what I hate. Philly media, when it's fun, it's fun. But when it's like everything, the sky is falling, that's why I want you guys to come listen to the Eagles stuff here, Eagles Uncovered. Like, the guy shaved his head. And people are like, is he going full Britney Spears? Like, people are like, is this guy having a crisis? How about the guy just cut his hair? Like, is that okay? Like, it's unbelievable. And so, like you pointed out, Nick Sirianni's the worst head coach in the NFL. Nick Sirianni sucks. This and this. I'm sorry. You don't win that many games in this league. And everybody's like, well, this roster's so good. Okay. How about this? Look at San Francisco's record during the same time. That's a roster. That's a great roster. The Eagles are second to only the Kansas City Chiefs in winning football games. Those are top rosters. Better than Niners. Better than the Bills. Better than throw your favorite team's favorite team out there because their favorite coach's favorite coach. How about the Ravens? Lamar Jackson. Oh, another guy, Tyson, who, what does he do here? How about John Harbaugh? How about Mike Tomlin? How about any of these other CEO type of head coaches that nobody gets on for not calling plays? Well, Nick Sirianni's taking a step back, and now all of a sudden it's, what does he do here? We don't know. He doesn't have a coaching edge. So say that about everybody else. So it drives me crazy. Now, I've been a Nick apologist. I think I like him. The players seem to like him. I don't care that he's a little fired up on the sidelines. It's football. This is a man's sport. If you're offended by that, you're watching the wrong thing. Like, come on.
I'm with you.
All right. Well, now it just got heated. Yes, Eagles are back. I agree with you. This ceiling all of a sudden is the Super Bowl. We were questioning that coming in. If the Eagles play like this, they don't turn the ball over. Jalen Hurts, he had that one bad throw. The Gainwell was like, dude.
That felt like early in the season, Jalen just turned his brain off what's going on, and then it snapped right back out of it. Where before, it was like, well, now he's definitely throwing a pick.
Now he's done. So if the Eagles play like this, ceiling is Super Bowl. They are back. Buzz cut Sirianni. He's got him fired up in the locker room. They believe, like Tyson said. So let's look ahead to next week. Jacksonville Jaguars. coming to town. Old Doug Peterson with his new statue. Oh, everybody still wishes Doug was the coach because, oh, Dougie got us our Super Bowl. And it's a disaster down in Jacksonville, Tyson. How many games till they move on? I mean, because another loss, I think you got to be thinking about it. But where are you at with this game?
Can the Eagles get Doug Peterson fired twice? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Can they get him
Oof.
fired from Philadelphia, and then can they get him fired from Jacksonville? And this has been, it's just, if you follow the NFL, we don't have to dive too deep into the Jaguars' struggles, but they're going to be without Christian Kirk. Looks like he's done for the year, I think is what I saw. Brian Thomas Jr. looks like he's out for 2 to 4. Travis Etienne has like a ghost injury is he hurt? Is he not? His real injury's name is Tank Bigsby. But Evan Ingram's back, and that's, tight ends have given the Eagles a bit of a problem so far this season. So that's a good challenge. But if we're looking for a team to turn over, it will be Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. This should be, and I'm knocking on wood at every single surface in my house saying this, but this should be a game that the Eagles are able to control through running the football and through, taking their shots when they want to, rather than when they have to. Because when Philly gets into a spot where they have to take shots, the offense doesn't look like this. And when they can dictate things, that'll be awesome. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think that Vic's going to want to heat Trevor up. I think there's going to be a little bit of some exotic stuff. Get his footwork, a little messy, and then see if you can't force him into a bad throw or make him, fumble with a strip sack, things like that. I think that Philadelphia is very well equipped to handle Jacksonville, and Jacksonville almost knocked off the Packers. This is kind of becoming their brand, though, where they're down to a point where it's really hard to win the game, come back and make it look like they're going to win just to lose.
They're the Jacksonville almosters, right? Oh, we were almost there. And oh, Trevor Lawrence is almost elite. And oh no, we're just almost a coach away. And you're the Jacksonville Jaguars with poor ownership. Tyson, before we get to our bold predictions we get out of here, Eagles, I'm just looking at this, me, EPA basis. They're 8th in the league on an EPA per play. Tyson, I'm looking at the Jags, and I've ripped them on a different show. They're 31st. They're tied with the Carolina Panthers for the worst defense in the NFL. They play man coverage, people. AJ Brown gonna eat. Devontae Smith gonna eat. Here's the other thing. Here's what I'm interested in. On both sides of the football, I'm looking at the running game. On a rushing basis, Tyson, the Eagles are 3rd offensively. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they're actually, what they can do on their side of the ball is stop the rush. They're 12th, and that's normally when teams are up against them. So if you break them, this offense could put up points. And then on the flip side, Jacksonville with Tank Bigsby, they're 7th in EPA per rush. Philadelphia's getting better, but they're still 16th. I think they're going to have to figure some things out on that front. But it's a battle of attrition, right? Like, you got who's going to dominate the trenches. I like the Eagles to do so. I think the Eagles win. What do you think?
I think the Eagles win as well. And one thing that just popped in my head, we're running up against the time here, but we didn't give Big Fred or any of these other, Tyler Steen had 2 kind of brain dead penalties throughout the game, but the offensive line was awesome, and we should have probably given them their flowers a little bit earlier. But I do think the Eagles win. I think they look good. And my bold prediction, as you mentioned, is against man coverage, is A.J. Brown goes for 125 and a touchdown.
Okay, 125 and a touchdown. AJB. Not really that bold for Tyson, so I just laid out the – no, I'm kidding. How about this for a bold prediction? Jahan Dotson sighting this weekend. He goes for 25+.
That's crazy that's bold. I mean, it's a subject for a different show, but the Jahan Dotson fall off should be studied. Let's get him involved. Let's get everybody involved. Hopefully we get some Tanner McKee snaps in this one. How nice would that be? I mean, maybe this is the key. We just come on here, do these shows, say that they're not going to impress, and then they come out, and we get some rocking chair action.
But I don't think we want a McKee, because wouldn't that mean Hurts would have to, or Pickett would get hurt?
That's true. I forget Kenny Pickett's even on the team, man. I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. I want McKee snaps anyways.
I know. So we don't wish injury upon anybody, but I think that's unless they're just carry him, which seems strange. But all right, let's get out of here. Great show, Tyson. I mean, great win for the Philadelphia Eagles. They dominate the Cincinnati Bengals. Not a lot of people had that. They were dogs by the sports books. A lot of people thought Joe Burrow was going to come in and shut them up. Let's go. Eagles keep it rolling. Buzz Nick Sirianni, 3-0. Come on, baby. You've been listening to the Eagles Uncovered, presented by the Undroppables. We'll talk to you guys next week.